who is Beate? What would you say?
Thanks. Yeah, who am I? Now, this is a big question, but I will reduce it a little bit.
Okay.
So my name is Beate Roggenbuck. I'm from Germany and have been living in Bonn now for the last 30 years. I'm a trainer, and I had the privilege to get in contact with these kind of approaches, pedagogical approaches, very early in my life after studying, when I had the possibility to work in the United States as a volunteer for a couple of years. So I have encountered the technique of mediation, but also other techniques to deal with conflicts constructively in a very early stage of my life, and I have somehow followed the path and became a mediation trainer. I also became a trainer for the so-called no blame approach, which is going to be the center of this discussion, I guess. So this very early encounter with conflict management approaches and techniques was somehow influencing my professional life a lot. Mm-hmm. This is not the only thing I'm doing, but it takes a big part of my life, yes.
So this MBA approach that we are speaking mm-hmm. about, no blame approach, is that, did they change the course of your instructional life, or is that majority of what you do now?
I offer the no blame approach training within very different settings. I offer it in Germany, and there the target groups are teachers, okay, because it is an approach that has been designed for a school. It can be adapted also to working life, but it is mainly teachers. And then I have a big privilege because I'm also working internationally in different EU projects, or even projects with countries in other regions, like for instance right now in Lebanon, that I can offer it to so-called multipliers, to mm-hmm. people who are in some kind of a training position in their own countries, where I can convey the techniques, the approach, the knowledge, the competences, and these people then somehow spread it in their own countries in primarily school contexts. So it would be indirect, mm-hmm. this kind of activities, yeah.
So you find it very useful in the schools also? Yeah. Teachers also yeah. find it useful? Yeah. So what is so special about MBA? What is, maybe we can start with concrete actions. What does it mean? What its MBA in practical life means? If for example, one school has problems of conflict resolution and so on, and they decide, okay, we want to try something. They, for example, Google MBA approach and call you. What happens then? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the usual method is that I offer a workshop, or there are others who offer workshops for teachers who are interested in learning this kind of approach. It is learning the procedure. Mm-hmm. So it is a very complex approach. It's an approach that can be taught within one day. So mm-hmm. it's easy for schools. It doesn't take a long time to become acquainted with it and to be able to apply it yourself in your own school context. And I think this is one of the big advantages of a no blame approach, that it is, as a pedagogue, as a social worker, as a teacher, I have a lot of background knowledge concerning group work and how to work with students, for instance. So the technique of a no blame approach is something that I can learn within this workshop. You asked about the difference or the special content. The big difference of a no blame approach, which is in the name itself, I mean, mm-hmm. The name is also sending a message. It is working without blame and without punishment, which means there is a very old idea of giving a person who does something wrong a second chance. Mm-hmm. It is offering the person, in this case a bully, somebody who is causing harm, causing a lot of harm to another person, procedure where we try that the teacher is trying to stop or to encourage the student to stop this painful behavior in order to improve the situation of the affected child, of the victim, but also to give some kind of motivation to the bully to change to the better. And I think this is a very unique approach of a no blame approach. On the one hand side, we aim at stopping the disastrous behavior, that a single person is just harmed in a very hard way, in a destructive way, with all the consequences that might appear. And when we talk about cyberbullying, we talk about extremes. We talk even about suicide. Mm-hmm. So we try to protect the affected individual, the victim, on the one hand side. We try to motivate the wrongdoer, the bully, to stop the behavior because it is not socially accepted anymore. We know that bullying is working because it is a group phenomenon, and often the bullying itself is supported by a group of classmates, which means that losing the support of a classmates also means that the bully might consider changing the behavior. And then additionally, we are trying to support the affected child by activities that will be run together with the classmates, so that there is not only a stopping of a very painful situation, but it is also, on the other hand side, a possibility to build up confidence again, to build up trust again, to be in a circle of other students, and to feel better, to feel healthy, to feel integrated again.
Mm-hmm. Sounds very good, but what would you say, for example, to people listening now to this interview, and maybe in even more traditional societies or something, when you say it's no blame and no punishment, and in our minds could go on like, bully gets with it without being punished, and he gets second chance, and what about the victim? And so what would you say to people that are doubting that this system works?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I would like to mention that there has been a survey, and in Germany we know, this survey showed that it worked in 85%. Mm-hmm. And that it had a significant effect on the victim because the victim flourished again. Mm-hmm. So this is a positive effect for the victim, so that we are not caught in a cycle of revenge, where a bully who might be punished by the authorities, by the headmaster and so forth, or by the parents, will hit back and even get worse. So we are breaking the cycle of revenge. We are also breaking the cycle of bullying. Interesting enough, also in more traditional groups within a society, I would not talk about generally, nowadays I would not talk about more traditional societies generally, because I think there are frictions within a lot of countries and societies where we have different groups, and there are groups who are have a tendency to a more modern educational style or a more authoritarian educational style. Interesting enough, We have practiced this also in 2 Arab countries, in Jordan and Lebanon. And as I said before, I'm training the local multipliers, the social workers who become active in the schools and who also talk to the parents, which is a key exercise to include and inform parents, awareness raising seminars for parents. Interesting enough, there was a deep understanding, because when we talk about giving a second chance, this sometimes connects also to a spiritual approach. I don't condemn, but I offer a second chance. In other words, there are also parallels when we talk about an attitude that has a religious basis.
Gives relief to the both sides.
And there it connects. There it connects. It is not that far away. Although, I mean, you're fully right, there are people who say this doesn't meet my understanding of justice, and I also understand.
Do you consider it like a good method to learn even if you don't find big conflicts and so on? So is it just already as a prevention tool, so you can already look at the conflict on that way, or you only invite MBA professionals to teach you when already escalated something big? When do the schools normally activate this?
Well, the MBA is an intervention. It is applied when there is a severe case, when there are indications, signals that a child is heavily suffering. On the other hand, the MBA has elements that you also find in other conflict resolution methods, like mediation, for instance. Meaning, you try to talk to somebody in a way where you listen with a lot of empathy, where you try to be affirmative, where you try to understand deeper worries and so forth, where you try to encourage students to support each other. All of this is social learning. So it goes hand in hand for me. The 3 steps of an MBA: that you intervene in case of bullying when a child has to be protected and the bullying has to be stopped. These are defined steps you apply in a situation where something is getting out of hand. The other elements, communication elements, social learning, all of this can be taught in schools from the very beginning. I've seen it, as a matter of fact, I've seen this in kindergarten with hand puppets. So the children were using hand puppets. Like one hand puppet is saying a bird word, and then the other hand puppet. What can the other hand puppet do? So interesting enough, these different these approaches have been also applied to different age groups. So a more simple, more playful kind of attempt, and then when you're talking to older students, obviously it's much more sophisticated.
And maybe for kind of conclusion of this discussion, in this we will put it just back there. Okay, it has 5 minutes until it falls off again. So maybe one conclusive question. Now we are in this project of EPIC, enabling positive intra-family communication. So the question was also, can this approach be adapted to adults, to the groups of adults, to persons, to conflicts inside the groups? Is there any feedback now that you got in these 2 days working together, or while you were thinking even before coming here? Is there any new thing that you discovered about this approach?
I think there are several answers to this question. Well, first of all, I would say since bullying, the way we understand is a group phenomenon. This can happen in any group, whether juveniles, children or adults, which means to have an eye on a situation where one person might be the victim, the affected person, and there it doesn't matter how old this person is. And then obviously you can think about adaptations like supportive actions for this individual. And this, as I said, it applies to every group. So it could be a sports club. It could also be in a working environment and so forth. The basic idea is to support the victim, to stop the process of the bullying, to withdraw the support for the person who is bullying. So I think that this could be one of the conclusions independent of the age. The other conclusion that we discussed yesterday is that the technique, the no blame, which can be taught, as I said before, within a workshop of a day for people who have some kind of pedagogical knowledge or people who are group leaders and so forth. So the idea was to also introduce it in other contexts, like for instance local sports clubs, or to present it to parents in some kind of non-formal parents' education, which we have a lot in Germany. I don't know about other countries. So it is an approach, I think, that can be adapted in different contexts, that the competence itself can be taught so that people can apply it. From my point of view, I think it needs a little bit of reflection and like, for instance, in this EPIC context, I could imagine that there are regional chapters or countrywide chapters who say, okay, we try to think about a follow-up in our context, what is possible. So the possibilities that we have, that we can either offer it as a training, or we apply it in our own parishes, we teach other parents, because you can, this is something that occurred to me during these days, I think also to sensitize parents would be a big advantage. That parents have an eye on their children, that they notice if something is wrong, that a child withdraws, for instance, and that the parents also approach teachers more early, or talk about or try to find support if things are going wrong within the school environment, because that it's difficult for a parent to solve it. There you need the support of a teacher. So I think there are different consequences that we can draw to either spread it, to use parts of it, also to use it in our own context within a group, where a group.
I hope that this approach will have much greater success in so many schools. We tried even to bring it to 2 schools in Slovenia also. So our experience was okay. I didn't check now how is it going there, but I see that this conflict between students and is all the time growing, and that we need new solutions, new approaches. The traditional way works until some instance, and that also people change, group dynamics change, values change and everything. And I think that this method, leaving so much space and relief also, because even if the bully is punished, the person who was bullied, the victim, also could have some bad feelings afterwards for the punishment, if it was enough or it wasn't enough, or so this kind of approaches, I think, that try to balance also the feelings of the victim and the bully, and give all the community the second chance, because they win the problem together. So this community moment is also, I think, very enriching for all the class.
Yeah, I fully agree.
Yeah.
I fully agree. I also think that we as adults, as educators, we really have to have an eye on the effect of social media, because what is obviously is that cyberbullying is much more disastrous than what we've seen before.
Of course.
Because cyberbullying doesn't have any limits. So I fully agree with you that we are very attentive, but that we also use the chance.
Thank you, Beate.
It was my pleasure. Thank you, Janusz.